Hello and welcome back to Live from Paris. It's time now for business news, and I'm joined for that by Matthew Warren. Hello, Matt.
Hi.
So you're going to start off with President Obama. He's set to make a statement on the US economy later this
Yes,
Friday.
there'll be a lot of interest in this. Of course, the first big thing he's saying after being re-elected, and he's going to be addressing the economy and in particular the fiscal cliff, which is a big worry for markets and for the US and the global economy at the moment. This, of course, refers to the $600 billion package of tax rises and spending cuts that will take effect in January unless a deal is done in Washington on the debt. And what's the likely impact of this fiscal cliff? Well, the Congressional Budget Office has estimated that GDP could drop in 2013 by 0.5%, effectively putting the US back into recession. It could send unemployment up as well to just over 9%. It's just currently below 8%.
So that's what's at stake if they don't manage to come up with a deal. We'll be keeping an eye on that. And, of course, that speech later on by President Obama. Markets, they've been down on worries about that.
They have. Markets hate uncertainty. US markets reflected that. They were down on Thursday, and Asian markets following suit. As you can see there, all of them falling on Friday in trading. European markets have just opened. Picture's slightly better there. They're pretty flat, really, but managing to make a few small gains. One piece of news out of France, Lorna. The central bank says that the economy here in France will shrink by 0.1% in the fourth quarter. If they're right about that, that would mean that France goes back into recession, but a lot of data to come out before we know that for sure.
Okay, we will wait and see. Meanwhile, new data coming out of China suggesting that their economy might be picking up a bit.
Yes, there's been a sense lately that perhaps things have bottomed out a little bit in China. Figures on industrial production out this Friday, and they were slightly encouraging, 9.6% versus a year earlier for October. That was better than the September figure. The government now expecting growth for the full year to be 7.5%. Now, that's lower than it has been in the past, and while growth may have slowed this year, ambitions are still running high in China. One example is the city of Chongqing that's hoping to create the world's biggest financial centre. Let's take a look.
With its replica of Paris's iconic bridge, Chongqing might look a bit crass. But the city in southwestern China, with half of France's population, wants more than just emulate the West. It wants to go far beyond. A massive ongoing project aims to make it the world's next financial capital.
We launched the project in 2009, just as the global financial crisis was raging. The crisis isn't over yet, especially in Europe, but I'm confident our project will be successful because China's economy is going strong.
Construction of Finance City has already started. Skyscrapers are being built at an amazing pace. Speed is key in China. Its economy has been growing fast for 3 decades to make the country bigger, richer and stronger. But its people, and especially their wages, haven't kept up with the pace of growth. With a university degree and a stable job, this man can't afford to live in Beijing and is sharing a flat with others in the suburb.
It's really hard for us young workers. We're 30-something. We want to get married, to have our own place to live, but our salaries are barely enough to make ends meet.
The rich-poor gap has been widening and social inequality has become a serious issue in today's China. Some economists even warn of an eventual economic collapse.
China has seen its glory days with a 14% growth rate. But those days are over. Today growth is down to 7% and people's incomes aren't rising fast enough. There's a risk China's economy could collapse.
A more even distribution of wealth is something Beijing needs to have to keep its political system intact.
Well, let's get some of the day's company news. And the Spanish airline Iberia is to cut 4,500 jobs. Parent company IAG said the airline's losing 1.7 million euros every day. IAG, which also owns British Airways, reported a pre-tax loss of 169 million euros for the first 9 months of this year.
British tax authorities want to know if criminals opened offshore accounts with HSBC. The Daily Telegraph newspaper in the UK says investigators are looking at clients with accounts in the Channel Island of Jersey. That list is said to include, among others, a drug dealer and 3 bankers facing fraud claims.
And the French bank Crédit Agricole made a loss in the latest quarter. Its latest results were 2.8 billion euros in the red. The sale of its Greek subsidiary Emporiki cost the bank 2 billion euros.
Well, Matthew, we're going to stay here in France now because French people are being encouraged to be a bit more patriotic when they go out and buy things.
That's right. A special 3-day event launching on Friday called Made in France. Even in French, they say it like that. Made in France. Exactly. And it's designed, as you might expect, to celebrate the very best of French business. Well, France 24 went to visit one French company that's doing a pretty good job of exporting its savoir-faire around the world.
Orders come in small numbers, 35, 15 or even 6 pieces at a time. Yet this tiny manufacturer outside Paris with just 12 employees is a leading force in a very specific niche market. The company specializes in tungsten carbides that are used in industrial machines and cars. It gets orders from major international firms like Cooper and Mitsubishi, thanks to its advanced technology, workmanship and unique know-how.
What we're doing here is scraping off the surface of the metal very thinly without producing shavings. It's a technique of filing down the metal little by little. We have highly skilled and specialized staff. Each of them is an expert in his field, but at the same time, they're quite versatile.
The workers here are paid on average €2,000 a month. That's more than France's minimum wage and much higher than in Eastern Europe, where the average salary is €800. For the company, that's the price of quality, the price of made in France.
If we made the same product of the same quality at the same speed, then we wouldn't have a chance. But if we can say, tomorrow we're going to deliver you the kind of parts the Chinese cannot make in 8 days, then people will buy our products, even if they're more expensive.
The manufacturer today exports 40% of its output. However, with competition becoming more and more fierce in every sector, the company knows there is no guarantee for continued success. It doesn't have any plans to hire new workers.
Well, we're going to stay in France now because there's a new top dog in the French corporate world. Tell us more.
That's right, Lorna. For quite a while, Total, the huge oil giant, has been the biggest company in France, according to market capitalization. Well, at the end of Thursday's trading session in Paris, they lost that top slot to this company, Sanofi, huge pharmaceutical company. Its share price has done very well this year, up 19%, while Total's has fallen almost 5%. That's caused this rejigging at the top. Now, if we take a look at the Eurozone, here are the biggest companies. So Sanofi and Total at number 2 and 3, but AB InBev, big brewing company, owns Budweiser amongst other brands. Stella Artois is at the top, and 2 German companies there, Volkswagen and Siemens, number 4 and 5.
Oh, that's an interesting table there. I would not necessarily have known that. Finally, we're staying with trade. One of the world's longest trade disputes has finally ended.
That's right. This is the Banana War, and it's not a cartoon series or anything like that. It's a real war, very serious war that's run for 20 years between the European Union and Latin America. And at the heart of the issue were tariffs that were slapped on Latin American banana exporters by the EU. They wanted to favour banana producers from former European colonies in Africa and the Caribbean, even though they were more expensive. So that 20-year war now officially over.
Oh, that's a nice positive note on which to end the business news this Friday. Thank you very much indeed, Matthew Warren, for that. That's all from us for now. Thanks for joining us, and don't go away. Aurore Dupuis will be here with more news headlines after the weather.